Good morning, and thank you for joining us as we get ready to start the 2020 Earth Optimism Digital Summit the next hour. As with most summits and conferences, we wanted to start off our day with a little coffee and networking. So I have my coffee. My name is Lauren Ward, and I'm an Earth Science video producer at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. And I'm looking forward to spending the next couple days with you.
My name is Tasha Goldberg, and I'm joining you from the Philadelphia area. I am a reporter and a filmmaker, normally traveling the world collecting and telling stories. But just like you, I am now home, working at home, staying safe by social distancing. The technology that brings us here together is enabling us to continue the conversation on Earth optimism and share stories about what is working around the world.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Johnson, and I'm a conservation scientist with the Smithsonian Institution. I run a community-based conservation research program called Virginia Working Landscapes. So this time of the year, I'm normally coordinating with my staff, my partnering scientists, and a network of more than 250 landowners and citizen scientists to gear up for our field season. But for these 2 days, I'm going to be right here with you, learning right alongside you from some of the greatest minds in conservation today. So we thought for this pre-show hour, we would bring you some thoughts from aspiring conservationists, as well as the voices of our students.
But before we do that, I want to remind you to engage with us on social media. My name is Kat, and I will be online during this whole summit to converse with you while I'm hosting. Don't forget to use our hashtag, EarthOptimism, to share your thoughts, your own stories of hope for our planet, or even just tell us how you celebrate Earth Day. And other than watching the film fest last night, how did my co-host celebrate? Tasha, what did you do?
Well, celebrating Earth Day is always a special day because it's also my very best, most favorite person, best friend's birthday, my sister. So I celebrated with a virtual dance party with my family to celebrate my sister, and then I watched incredible, beautiful films all night on EOTV. How did you celebrate, Lauren?
I made a delicious vegetarian meal, falafel. It was delightful. And I also watched the film fest last night, so I hope that you all caught most of that because the films were amazing. What about you, Amy?
I planted a pollinator garden yesterday. I've been working on bringing in more native plants to my yard. So I planted some bee balm, I planted a couple of pawpaw trees, and then after a long day, I sat down and watched the Earth Optimism Film Festival. So just like you guys, it was a phenomenal evening of films.
Well, that's awesome. Let's go ahead and kick things off this morning. Our first film comes from the Embassy of Colombia. Enjoy.
The idea of the program is to improve the capacity of the communities to take birders into their protected areas. They need tools, they need the way to use the resources they have around in a peaceful way to make a living, and this is an amazing opportunity for them. Since they don't need to invest that much, they don't need to go through a difficult process of education. Most of them already know the birds of the community or the birds of their surrounding. Is just to give them the tools to use that local knowledge and turn it into an opportunity of making some extra income.
The Southwest Birding Trail is very important for the region or for Colombia, because it's the most diverse trade for birds in Colombia. The local community are very interested in to promote these different departments like the Valle del Cauca, Cauca, and Nariño, because these departments of this area in the past it had conflict. So now the people want to leave this conflict in the past.
From what I've seen so far, most of the Colombians understand the need of preserving the environment and the importance of the environment. And that's something interesting, because in many other countries that I have visited, people they don't make any connections in between the conservation of the environment and the future of the country. Meanwhile, over here in Colombia, it seems to me that people are really aware of the conservation need of the fragments of forest, especially in the Andes areas. It is amazing to see the hope that they are putting on this. It's just really warm, really rewarding to watch them talk about the opportunities that they can see now after the training.
That was so great and inspiring. And it's really neat to think about a lot of the birds that we see right here all year round, or through most of the year, actually going down to Central and South America for the winter. So bird-friendly coffee is really helping them get through those vulnerable winter months. Next up, we wanted to introduce you to a total of 9 outstanding undergrad and graduate students through a series of lightning talks. They're doing some amazing work in the field of conservation, and we're going to meet 4 of them today. The first is an economics Ph.D. student at Howard University, specializing in urban and environmental economics. She's going to talk to us about shaping Earth optimism using environmental data. Let's listen to Jasmine Fuller.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Fuller, and I'm an environmental economist studying at Howard University. And today my talk is titled Shaping Earth Optimism Using Environmental Data. And so this was inspired by the research I do at my university that estimates the economic value of weather forecast in the face of severe weather. So the main takeaway that I want to give from this talk is the importance of government agencies like the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration that publish data about current environmental conditions and then offer predictions for our future conditions. And so this is really helpful in not only understanding what's happening and what may happen, it's also helpful in possibly changing what may happen. So if our future looks grim and we can predict that now, we may be able to do something about that so that we can change our future. And so I think that's the real big idea about this conference is to keep optimistic about what we can do for our future. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, was created in 1970 with this belief so that a better understanding of the environment would lead to better predictions and possibly some control over what can happen in the future. NOAA monitors and improves and aims to improve global climate and the environment, and they publish real-time and retrospective climate data and are responsible for most of our weather forecasts. So in the past decade, many studies have found links between climate change and increases in severe weather events. So severe weather events would include hurricanes, tornadoes, winter storms, and so this link has predicted that because of climate change, the frequency, intensity, and duration of these events would increase. And so there are 2 graphs here that show this trend from at least 1980 to present time, where you see an increase in heavy precipitation and as well as hurricane power over time. So severe weather is a big deal because of the effect that it has on public property, personal property, and human health as well. So just last year, there were about 14 severe severe weather events that caused over $1 billion in damages each. And so that's damages to public and personal property, and not to mention the amount of deaths that those events have caused. And so in this slide, I show a picture of a car windshield damaged by a hailstorm, and a tree knocked over by severe winds. So it's important. So prepare, don't let severe weather take you by surprise. So the quality of weather forecasts have improved over the last decade, and knowledge about severe weather events are often available days prior to their occurrence. And even with a lot of the other data that NOAA publishes, this data can be available even months or years prior, because they can predict seasonal trends in severe weather. And then more recent studies have shown that actions taken prior to the occurrence of a severe weather event can actually decrease the total negative impacts incurred as a result of the storm. So that's definitely what my research is focused on now, is kind of understanding how much weather forecast and these weather predictions have an impact on people's preparation for severe storms. So if weather forecasts in the short term can encourage people to take short-term preparatory actions, including like evacuation, securing their personal belongings, and then trends in severe weather can encourage people to take preparatory actions that are more long-term, including obtaining disaster insurance or practicing emergency drills. And so just to hone in back on my original point is that these weather forecasts and these severe weather trends are all data that NOAA and the National Weather Service are responsible for. And so this is a big deal when understanding how much these things can have an effect on so many different variables, but in this case, how they can affect the damages that we incur based on severe weather. So the damages to human health, property, and all these other things that could have large effects on our environment and our society. And so I just want to thank everyone for listening. I appreciate it. And thank you.
Great job, Jasmine. Next up is a comparative stress physiologist, Ph.D. student at George Mason University, and a research fellow at the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute. Let's meet Robert Prasad.
Physiologist, I've always been fascinated by how similar health measures are between animals and humans. During my master's research, I began to ask a question. What if instead of translating animal models to humans, we translated human success to improving the lives of species in zoos and aquariums around the world? By the end of my master's research, working with lambs as a proxy model for both humans and other animal species, I was optimistic. When I published my thesis with an entire chapter identifying similar immune and stress markers in elephants and cheetahs, I knew I'd found a future. You see, by using these measures of immunocompetence in addition to already established markers of stress and reproduction, I believe we can foster a preventative system that monitors health and quantifies disease risk. We can move beyond simply reacting to an illness or excess stress in animals that otherwise don't have a voice to tell us they're sick. Now, 84% of species in zoos live longer than in the wild. The problem that we've struggled with is that animals can't tell us their tum-tums hurt or they're stressed out. So we rely on non-invasive measures of stress, behavior, and reproduction. Now, comparative studies in humans demonstrate that immunology is inextricably tied to all of these. I've had or will have the opportunity to work with elephants and red pandas, kiwis and marine iguanas, and even fish. I can do this because they all have an immune system, reproduce, and experience stress. Using this comparative approach, I dream of a comprehensive preventative care system, similar to how we treat humans today. With my work, I hope to provide a quantitative measure of health and disease, another tool to monitor breeding and welfare programs, and a way to track individual health. Now, is this too much for a PhD? Absolutely. It's too much for this presentation. But with a little funding and a whole lot of optimism, it's a start. It's an opportunity to demonstrate how successful we can be. I've come to realize that next generation scientists must become competent researchers and communicators. I believe we have an opportunity to ensure that this generation is remembered as a turning point, and not as a tipping point for issues like biodiversity conservation, science literacy, and rational discourse. I'm optimistic about this future because people are still curious. This picture was taken from the safari park run by the Omaha Henry Doorly Zoo and Aquarium in rural Nebraska. On the opening day, in the midst of a pandemic, they had more than 7,000 visitors. They still have a warning up on their website about long lines. Every car, every family represents someone who is willing to listen. I hope that the work I presented today is something they hear. I hope it sparks optimism for the future of conservation in them as it did in me. I hope that when published, there is a paragraph for the public in every paper from my peers. Whether we only choose to present, or we choose to inform, advise, advocate, or even admonish, it's critical that we communicate. Many of you understood and championed this ideal long before I stood on my soapbox today. So thank you. Thank you to the Smithsonian for this opportunity and to you for your time and attention. Most of all, thank you for choosing optimism. Feel free to contact me with any questions.
Our next lightning talk comes to us from a master's program student in social enterprise at the School of International Service, American University, Washington, D.C. He's going to speak to us on the different meanings of climate change. Let's listen to Yohanis Lamere.
Everyone, my name is Yohanis Lamere. I'm from Indonesia. I'm a master's candidate in social enterprise at the School of International Service, American University in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for coming to my talk today, and here's my story about the power of experiment. I know the fact that I want to pursue my career and work in sustainability area. I know the fact that I don't have biology, science, environment, and engineering background to begin with. So my initial questions 3 years ago was where to start. And the only answer I had at that time was, I can start small by making an experiment. So in my talk today, I will lead you to the journey of my meaningful experiment I have done in the past with my undergraduate thesis research. I studied communication science for my undergraduate degree with no connections with conservation and sustainability at all. I went to talk to my thesis advisor, Professor Gregoria Arom, and told her that I wanted to do something different. I want to write something meaningful. Long story short, she suggested me that, Johannes, you will write something about environmental communication. My initial thought was, what was that? And I never learned that before in all my classes. It was super unfamiliar at the time. I bite the bullet and I start my research journey with two main questions. The first one is how the traditional art community in remote central Java construct the meaning of nature and climate change. And the second one was how they disseminate the climate messages within the community members. I spent roughly 10 months with my research project, and here's my findings. I found out that there's this concept called hasta brata, a traditional concept that emphasizes on the harmony of 8 important elements in nature: water, sun, moon, fire, stars, air, earth, and revelation. These are great assets and values. Nothing about sustainable development goals, Earth Hour, and all the hashtags that we saw on social media. It is constructed by their ancestors and becomes the living values of the community. And my second question was, how do they communicate all this very strong and powerful message throughout the community? They communicate the climate message through mindful dance performance. How they construct the message through gestures, interaction, colors of their costumes, sounds, moves, and also the backgrounds. So after this research paper, my main takeaway that I learned is that we don't have to come with resources and knowledge to tell the people what to do about climate change or things that we need to take action upon. Because we believe that the resource is already there. It exists within the community itself. This experience motivated me to pursue my education in social enterprise so I can be in the space that embraces the value of experimentation, failure, collaboration, and learn from the small steps. Now, I don't know where to go next, and I'm still figuring out my future and interests, but I know that I'm ready for my next experiment.
Thank you, Johannes. Our final lightning talk this morning is from a biology undergraduate student from the University of California, Santa Barbara, who is going to tell us about the geographic variation in island scrub jay vocalizations. Let's meet Anthony Julian Gomez.
Hello, my name is Anthony Julian Gomez. I am currently a biology major attending Ventura Community College. I am also a member of the UCSB Smithsonian Scholars Program. Today, I will be discussing about a question that asks, is there geographic variation in island scrub jay vocalizations? This question involves speciation, which is a process by which new species evolve. There are two types: allopatric and sympatric speciation. My focus was on sympatric speciation, which is the evolution of a new species with no physical barrier to gene flow. Previous studies have shown that differences in vocalizations sounds animals make within a population may contribute to sympatric speciation. Island scrub jays that inhabit pine forests have specific calls, known as female-specific calls known as rattles, which are different from jays in oak habitats. This variation is due to differences in bill morphology, beak shape, associated with habitat type. With this in mind, I compared a second vocalization, the Shek call, produced by both sexes, to see if there was any difference as well. The information obtained from this study matters because it will aid in conservation efforts that can only be possible by furthering our understanding of the island scrub jay, Physiologist insularis, an endemic passerine found nowhere else on the planet but Santa Cruz Island, California, USA. I obtained acoustic recordings from 3 different locations on Santa Cruz Island. Of the acoustic recordings, I used 25 of them with the least amount of background noise. Raven Light 2.0 was used to produce spectrograms, as pictured here, to measure the Shek call length, count the number of individual notes per call, and determine the length of space between each note. Using this Raven Light 2.0, I was able to generate the following charts. As you can see, island scrub jays from oak habitats tended to have slightly longer calls and a higher note count than pine individuals, but had shorter intervals between notes. Both west and east pines had similar call lengths and note count, but eastern pine birds had a significantly longer interval length than the west. The data supports the idea of sympatric speciation. However, ongoing research will be needed to investigate this matter further. Thank you all for listening to my brief presentation. I'd like to give a big thank you to the Smithsonian Latino Center, the Smithsonian Office of Fellowships and Internships, and the UCSB Smithsonian Scholars Program, which receive federal support from the Latino Initiatives Pool administered by the Smithsonian Latino Center. Thank you all.
All of these students did an incredible job. We at Earth Optimism feel that the group of scientists, students, teachers, and storytellers that we have brought together for these 2 days will create a masterclass for you to participate in and will inspire you to continue learning about our planet. And Sir David Attenborough said it best: an understanding of the natural world and what's in it is a source of not only great curiosity, but great fulfillment. We hope that you will take advantage of this platform we've created and watch as much as you can. There is so much to learn for all ages. And we want to hear from you. Teachers and students now experiencing distance learning, be sure to tell us what you think of the content and join our conversation online. I will be available to reach at Earth Optimism on Twitter throughout this event. Also, check out the hashtag SmithsonianEDU to find even more educational resources. Next up, we have a short film for you on bird conservation.
Have you seen a red canary? Did you know that one of its ancestors is a Venezuelan native bird called red siskin? Red siskins have been torn away from their forests to then be taken to private breeding centers, where they're crossbred with common canaries to produce red-colored canaries. Wild red siskin populations have been reduced by 98%. Venezuelans have come to have more red siskins in their national currency than flying in freedom. This is how the red siskin is now critically endangered, right on the brink of extinction. That's why we present to you the Red Siskin Initiative, an alliance between public and private institutions working to recover red siskin populations in the forest, promote their sustainable use, and involve the communities in the process. But we can't do this by ourselves. We need your help, because when we save a species and its home, we're also saving ourselves.
Welcome back to the EOTV studio. I have seen so much activity online already since we kicked off with our short film festival last night. We had people viewing from across the US, Australia, Canada, and even Palawan. Make sure you keep saying hello to us to let us know you're watching. Now I'm going to hand it off to Laura to introduce our next set of videos.
We wanted to showcase some extraordinary teen students during our bird-friendly coffee hour. Up next is a short video from one of those young students.
Hi, we are the Eco Teen Action Network's Plastics Hub. Our goal is to create a global community of teen changemakers that take action towards reducing single-use plastics, improving recycling programs, and encouraging thoughtful consumption through teen-led initiatives.
After my year at an outdoor education program, I realized how important nature is to me. I joined the Plastics Hub because I wanted to act on my passion for the environment.
My name is Emmanuel Bassi. I'm from Nigeria. I joined the Plastic Hub to reduce the plastic waste in Nigeria so that our roads and our cities will be clean.
The Plastics Hub has accomplished a lot over the past year. We held an event at the National Zoo and it was a major success. We ran interactive booths and got to educate the community about the threats of plastic pollution. One of our current initiatives is the reusable food takeout container program at Amazon's new headquarters in Arlington. We have connected with an array of large corporations to help execute and support this program. We were able to showcase this project at the 2019 EPA Recycling and Innovations Fair, and we were also able to garner community support by attending several local civic events. These efforts allowed us to be honored at the Leaders in Energy 4th Generation Sustainable Solutions Ceremony as the Millennial Generation nominee. This past month, we've met with Amazon to explain what role they would have in the system, and we are very optimistic that within the coming months, this program will be piloted at Amazon's new headquarters.
Among the many things I have learned being a part of the Plastics Hub, including organization and collaboration, the most valuable lesson is that being young is never an obstacle in making change. If anything, it's an advantage because more people are inclined to pay attention to you and your cause.
Working closely with a group of fearless, passionate teens and mentors who are all working towards a common goal has inspired me. I am so optimistic because the Plastics Hub will not settle without seeing our efforts making a direct, impactful difference in our community.
One thing that makes me really optimistic is seeing and working with all the groups of teens out there that are making positive changes in their community and working towards a sustainable future, just like us.
I'm optimistic because I know that an inspiring community of changemakers exists and is ready to take action.
Hi, I'm Miriam Gennari, and for the past year, I've been a mentor for the Eco Teen Action Network's Plastics Hub. You see, we need more than just optimism. We need to join with our teen leaders and demand an end to things like single-use plastic. Consider becoming a mentor. You'll be glad you did.
To learn more about the Plastics Hub, check out our website or email us. Join us to help shape the future we all want and deserve.
The Eco Teen Action Lab Network is a partnership between the Smithsonian Conservation Commons and the Global CoLab Network, a local NGO focused on youth-led intergenerational action around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And now we're going to meet two of those eco-teens in person. Joining us live are Kayla Peel and Kritika Legalala. Hey gals, thanks for being with us today.
Of course, thank you so much for having us.
It's so good to see both of you. I wanted to start first. What have you learned from being part of an intergenerational campaign for sustainability action?
Of course. So, as high school students, we've had to learn to balance a lot of things, from schoolwork to sports and other extracurriculars. And on top of everything else, we also have our environmental activism. So, leading the Plastics Hub, we've both learned significantly how to improve our time management and our organization and communication skills. And all these things have really helped us grow as leaders.
Wow, I am in complete awe of you because not only are you going to school, but you've got a project on the side that is probably taking up a lot of time, a lot of energy. That's amazing. So I want to hear about some of the challenges that you faced as young change makers and how you've been able to overcome those challenges.
Yeah, definitely. So, as teens, just like everyone else, our first challenge was getting people to take us seriously and respond to our emails. So, to overcome this, we had to be really persistent and we had to keep emailing until we got a response. And although we had to do very thorough research and present ourselves in a very professional manner, we realized how important our teen voices were and we know the power that they hold. So, it's really up to our generation to take a stand and shape our future that we.
Wow. I can't imagine. I mean, I personally know what it's like to also not get responses to emails. And so it is really tough sometimes when you feel like you're being persistent, but sometimes that's just what you need to do in order to get the answers that you need. I'm sure you guys would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what are some of your accomplishments so far? And I really want to dive deep into this because you're both incredibly impressive, and I'm sure a lot of other young people are wondering what they can do. So let's hear about some of the things that you guys have both accomplished.
Yeah, of course. So our first goal and project as a Plastics Hub was an event at the National Zoo. So we got to hold a bunch of interactive booths to communicate to the community about the threats of plastic pollution, and it was a major success. We had great turnout, and it was really cool to see how inspired everyone was leaving that event. So then that next summer, we started our Go Box initiative, which is our current project right now, and it's been really exciting to take part in it. And so our goal is to implement a reusable food takeout container system at National Landing, which is Amazon's new headquarters in Arlington, Virginia, so right in our backyards. And as you probably know, plastic and styrofoam packaging has really dire consequences on our environment. So through this project, we will be able to reduce the plastic waste and also promote a circular economy. So thus far, we presented to 4 companies, including Amazon, and we were able to showcase this project at the 2019 EPA Recycling and Innovations Fair. And that was a really cool opportunity. We got to see what a lot of other corporations are working on right now with their environmental projects. And then to engage the local community, we attended a bunch of civic association events and where we garnered a ton of support from our community, which is obviously important because this is where they're living too. And then we were honored at the Leaders in Energy 4 Generation Sustainable Solutions Award ceremony as the Millennial Generation nominee. And even this last month, we were recognized by the Washington Business Journal, and they published an article about our campaign. So we've had a lot of success, but I'll let Krithika talk about some of our other initiatives because that wasn't the only one.
Whew, that's amazing. Krithika, I can't wait to hear from you.
I can finally hear something. I don't think the audio was working beforehand.
Yeah, live shows. Can you hear us now, Krithika?
Yep. I don't know what's been
awesome. So we only have 30 seconds, but I want to hear from you. What have been some of your biggest accomplishments so far? Kayla has been able to give us a great list, but from your perspective, what does that look like?
Well, I think one of our main accomplishments has definitely been the GoBox project. I think Kayla might have already touched on that, but in addition to our GoBox project, we were also working to empower a group of teens in Lagos, Nigeria, and we're helping connect them with different organizations to reduce plastic waste in their area. And ultimately, it's all our goal to encourage people to reconsider their daily consumption habits and working with small organizations and businesses to try and convince them to switch to more environmentally friendly business practices. And we are really optimistic that we're going to be able to make local and international change through this hub.
Well, you two are both so amazing. I'm so happy that I got to talk to you both today. You inspire me, and I am in complete awe of you both. We're about out of time, and I want to thank you for joining us now. And we're going to throw it over to Amy for an update on one of our favorite collaborators. Thank you, girls, so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. We also wanted to give a shout out and update from an organization that participated in our 2017 Earth Optimism Summit, the Piedmont Environmental Council. They are making substantial progress in their land conservation and restoration efforts in Virginia, in collaboration with a huge number of partners in government, nonprofits, and also individual landowners. The rate of land quality and habitat restoration is accelerating with federal, state, local, and philanthropic support. We'd love hearing those success stories, so thank you, PEC. Bee City USA also participated with us back in 2017, and it has grown from 44 certified cities in 2017 to 105 certified cities today, and an additional 23 university and college campuses. Wow. Each affiliate commits to galvanizing their communities to create more pollinator-friendly habitats, rich in local native plants and using no pesticides. Bee City USA monitors progress and shares results, which are so inspiring. Congratulations, Bee City USA, for your exciting growth and continued expansion. And now we have another video for you from Madagascar.
Before humans came to Madagascar, the island was inhabited by extraordinary creatures such as giant lemurs and elephant birds. These animals were probably very important for the dispersal of plants with very large or megafaunal fruits. By feeding on the fruits, these animals dispersed the seeds over very long distances. When humans arrived on Madagascar, probably around 2,000 years ago, all the very large megafaunal animals went extinct, and this may have hindered the dispersal of megafaunal fruited plants. We want to know what the consequences of these megafaunal animal extinctions are for plants with megafaunal fruits. Several species of megafaunal fruited plants still exist on Madagascar, but in some cases population sizes are very small. Examples of such megafaunal fruits are found in the palm family. Therefore, we traveled to Madagascar, and together with a team of Malagasy researchers, we collected genetic material, or DNA, from palm populations all over the island, from the rainforests in the east to the drylands in the west. We also studied the size of the fruits and seeds to find out if there are still animals that live today that have mouths big enough to swallow and of course disperse them. We expect that due to this dispersal limitation, populations with very large fruits are genetically disconnected and have gone through genetic bottlenecks the moment the megafauna went extinct. On the other hand, populations of species with small fruits may still be connected, because many lemur species are known to feed on these fruits and disperse the seeds between localities. If our expectation turns out to be true, it means that these plants with megafaunal fruits are threatened by low genetic diversity and are possibly facing extinction themselves. We preserved the samples we collected to make sure we can keep on investigating these species, and hopefully we'll be able to prioritize them for conservation.
We also have a few film selections sent to us by the Frost Museum in Miami, Florida. Here are two short selections.
Hi, my name is Brianna Erudite, and I'm a science ambassador for the Philip and Patricia Frost Museum of Science. Have you ever wondered about the chemical reaction that occurs when cracking a glow stick in a dark room? Would you believe that there are animals in the deep sea that have the same ability to glow in the dark?
So if you break down the word bioluminescence, luminescence means the admission of light.
Bio refers to the ability of an organism to produce the light. So if you take the word in its whole, bioluminescence, it's defined as the emission of light produced by a living organism. Bioluminescence has several advantages. It helps an organism find their mate. So the production of light allows them to communicate with other animals within their same species. They can also use it for feeding. It helps them attract food, and it also helps them camouflage themselves.
They do this through a process called counter-illumination, where the animal produces light that matches their background, allowing them to disappear right in front of their prey. Some animals that display bioluminescence are fish, such as the lanternfish and the scaly dragonfish, squids, such as the midwater squid and the vampire squid. Glowing zooplanktons are also bioluminescent.
My name is Kayla. I'm the Science Ambassador for the Philip and Patricia Frost Museum of Science. Did you know that a temperature rise of just 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius is enough to stress out a coral? We talked to coral expert Dr. Andrew C. Baker to learn more about what scientists are doing to help coral reefs survive in our warming oceans.
Climate change is probably one of the single largest problems that we face today. As far as coral reef ecosystems go, unless we do something in the next 10 to 20 years, many of the reef ecosystems around the world are probably not going to bounce back to where they used to be, and we'll have to suffer their losses. Corals are really sensitive to increases in temperature, and with the carbon dioxide that we're putting into the atmosphere, which is warming the Earth up, corals are being hit with episodes of what we call coral bleaching, where they get too hot and they expel their algal symbionts, turn white, and usually die. And these episodes of coral bleaching are becoming more and more frequent and more severe around the world, and are really threatening the future survival of these ecosystems. Here at the university, we're experimenting with ways of introducing corals to types of algal symbionts that are more resistant to warming. And corals that have the right kinds of algal symbionts in them resist bleaching and are resistant to climate change. Our plan is to actually seed reefs around Miami and elsewhere with these more climate-tolerant corals that will help them build reefs and protect our coastlines. One thing we can do is locally recognize just how valuable the corals are. That there are corals off the coast here in Miami-Dade that people don't know about. They provide a function in helping preserve fish habitat and supporting local fisheries. Before we try to restore the reefs that we've lost, we should also do the best we can to protect existing corals that are already off our coasts.